Hello out there viewers, and welcome to Pixar Profiles. This is the first in a series of videos dedicated to profiling characters featured in films produced by the Pixar company. The Pixar Profiles pilot will be focused on Bo Peep, one of Pixar's oldest characters, debuting in their first feature film, Toy Story. This video is an overview of Bo Peep's history in the Toy Story series, looking at how she was utilised as a supporting character in the first two Toy Story entries, to how she was developed and expanded upon for her role as one of the main characters of Toy Story 4. In the first Toy Story film, Bo Peep is one of the 5 key supporting characters, along with Mr. Potato Head, Ham, Rex and Slinky. She stands out amongst them as being the only girl, as well as being the love interest to protagonist Woody. Like most supporting characters in movies, her characterization is defined by her relationship to the protagonist. She certainly lives up to the term supporting character, as her entire role in the film can be boiled down to her being there to support Woody, either by comforting him about Buzz's arrival or defending him from Mr. Potato Head, making her act as a voice of reason amongst the group. Even when Woody is lost, Bo Peep laments that if only Woody could see how much Andy misses him, which is kind of a weird thing for her to care about, considering she believes Woody killed Buzz at this point in the movie. Beau, being Woody's love interest, makes her one of Woody's closest allies in the film. Before Woody develops his friendship with Buzz, Bo Peep seems to be the toy he has the closest relationship with. However, I would argue that Woody's friendship with Slinky is more significant than his relationship with Bo Peep. Slinky and Bo Peep are actually stepping on each other's toes a bit when it comes to their roles in the movie, as they're both trying to fill out the role of being Woody's most supportive companion. This leads to a few instances in the plot where Woody's friendship with Slinky is valued over his friendship with Bo Peep. For example, in the scene where Woody calls for the toys from Sid's room, and they all abandon him after they think he killed Buzz, Bo gives up on Woody before Slink does. She walks away with the rest of the group, while Slinky stays, staring mournfully at Woody. In this moment, Slinky is treated as Woody's breaking point. Slinky losing faith in him signifies that Woody has truly lost everything, therefore making the Woody-Slinky relationship more significant than the Woody and Bo Peep relationship. In the film's finale, Slinky also has the more active role, his stretchy body being used to reach out to Woody. Bo Peep's only contribution to the finale is telling Rocky to pull down the ramp, and let's be real, anyone could have done that. This puts Bo Peep in an awkward position as a character, as it makes her feel a little redundant when Slinky already fills out the supporting Woody role and is treated as a more important character in the movie. In this regard, Bo shares some similarities to Sally from the Cars franchise. Sally is the love interest to Cars protagonist, Lightning McQueen, but their relationship has never been given as much attention as McQueen's friendship with Mater. In the same way, Toy Story 1 values Woody's friendships with Buzz and Slinky over Bo Peep. The one element that Bo Peep does add to the movie that Slinky can't is Bo being Woody's love interest. Although, now that I think about it, I think Slinky might have a crush on Woody too. When Bo Peep isn't defending or comforting Woody, she's being flirtatious. Really flirtatious. Like when she kisses Woody all over his face, covering him in lipstick. Where did she get this lipstick from? Did she steal it from Andy's mum? There is a hint of a love triangle between her, Woody and Buzz. When Bo Peep first meets Buzz, she hints that she is instantly attracted to him, saying, "I found my moving buddy." But after this line, they don't really pursue the attraction any further. While Woody is jealous of Buzz's general popularity, he never seems particularly concerned with Buzz taking Bo Peep away from him. The relationship he's much more concerned about is Andy. Later in the film, Bo is the one who comforts Woody about Buzz's arrival, saying,
"I know Andy's excited about Buzz, but you know, he'll always have a special place for you,"
confirming that she is still on Team Woody. Bo Peep's attraction to Buzz isn't referenced much in future Toy Story films either. It is paid some lip service to in the second film, when Bo kisses Buzz on the cheek.
"This is for Woody, when you find him."
Alright, but I don't think it'll mean the same coming from me.
I guess that's as good a transition as any to start talking about Beau's role in Toy Story 2. I mentioned that Beau was one of the 5 key supporting characters in the first Toy Story. In the sequel, the other 4 characters end up having a much more active role, actually getting to go out on an adventure this time, instead of just being stuck in Andy's room, or a moving van. Bo Peep, meanwhile, is the only one of the 5 who doesn't get to go out on the adventure. remaining in Andy's room, much like the first movie. Except this time, this is a much worse position to be in, as Andy's room is only featured in the opening and ending of the film. Obviously, being absent from a big chunk of the film resulted in Bo Peep having an even more downplayed role. Beau doesn't have to compete with Slinky this time, due to Woody's friendship with Slink not being that significant to the plot of Toy Story 2. But now Bo Peep has the much more powerful character rivals, Buzz Lightyear and Jessie. Beau's most important scene in the movie is when she tells Woody to look at the name written on his boot, reminding Woody of how much Andy cares for him. This conversation sets up the theme of the movie, the question of how deeply Andy cares about Woody. Bo Peep puts forward the argument that Andy would take Woody to camp, with or without his hat. Bo Peep has faith that Andy genuinely loves Woody, and wouldn't disregard him for superficial reasons. I'd say that Bo Peep giving Woody this insightful, calming advice is the most valuable thing she added as a character in the first two films. There wasn't another toy in the first film that could provide that. However, with Woody's close friendship with Buzz from the second film onward, we see that Buzz is able to take over this advisor position that belonged to Beau. Whilst Beau is the one who establishes Andy's love for Woody in the opening, Buzz takes over this message at the film's conclusion, when Buzz lays out to Woody why he should come home with them to Andy.
Somewhere in that pat of stuffing is a toy who taught me that life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid. And I traveled all this way to rescue that toy, because I believed him.
If Buzz has taken over Beau's voice of reason role, as well as being Woody's closest companion, then the main thing Bo Peep has going for her is being the token girl, which she no longer has with the introduction of Jessie. And Mrs. Potato Head, I guess. Jessie even starts taking the Woody's advisor role in the third film, although Jessie's advice is the opposite of Beau's, with Jessie being more confrontational with Woody, arguing that they should move on from Andy. Plus, Jessie even fills in for that brief Woody and Buzz love triangle.
Woody! Come on, we're almost there. El vaquero.
With Beau constantly being outshined by other characters, there wasn't much she was contributing to the series other than being the sexy lamp. The sexy lamp test was coined by Kelly Sue DeConnick and was described as follows. If you can replace your female character with a sexy lamp and the story still basically works, maybe you need another draft. If we apply this test to Bo Peep's roles across the first two movies, we find that she fails it. All her character moments across both movies take up around 6 minutes total. I'm not exaggerating. There's a YouTube video titled Toy Story, Woody and Beau, which contains all of Beau's major scenes from the first 3 movies, and it's only 6 minutes and 37 seconds long. Taking out these 6 minutes doesn't have any major repercussions for either of the film's overall story. Applying the sexy lamp test to Bo Peep even works on multiple levels, as she's literally part of a lamp set. Whether or not you find her sexy is down to personal preference. With all this in mind, it's not much of a surprise that Beau was written out from Toy Story 3. Beau only appears in a silent cameo and is briefly mentioned by Rex and Woody, revealing that she has been given away. This conversation is used to emphasise how any toy could be outgrown at any time. Beau was effectively replaced in this entry by Molly's Barbie doll. While they aren't particularly similar personality-wise, they do have clear physical similarities, both being designed to resemble a pretty blonde woman, and both of them were once Molly's toy. During development of the original Toy Story, Woody's love interest was initially going to be a Barbie doll, but this had to be changed due to Mattel not wanting Barbie to be featured in the original Toy Story. Could you imagine if Barbie had been Woody's girlfriend? It would have drastically changed how the Ken storyline played out. The two popular theories given for Bo Peep's absence in Toy Story 3 is that as a porcelain figure she would have broken during the events of the furnace scene, and also that Andy wouldn't have anything to say about her when he gave his toys away to Bonnie. I've always found this latter reasoning a bit weak. All Andy had to say about the aliens was that they were from Pizza Planet. I'm sure he could have said something just as vague about Beau. The fear that she would break is more tangible, and was also one of the reasons she had such a reduced role in Toy Story 2. According to Lee Unkrich, co-director of Toy Story 2 and director of Toy Story 3, we had previously struggled to find ways to have her be part of the story in Toy Story 2. Our thinking at the time was that she was made out of porcelain, so it didn't seem safe for her to be out in the world on an adventure. It would be unbelievable for her to be going through the same intense physical things the other toys went through without getting broken, so we left her back in Andy's room. It seemed as if the creators of Toy Story had run into a wall with Bo Peep, feeling they couldn't do much with the character because Bo Peep just wouldn't be able to physically handle anything they threw at her. As Toy Story 3 ended with Andy giving his toys away to Bonnie, it seemed like a natural end for the film series, and so Bo Peep would never be expanded upon any further. I remember thinking after Toy Story 3 came out that there was only one way Pixar could justify Toy Story 4. They would have to make it about Bo Peep. And wouldn't you know, that's exactly what they did. Bo Peep returned in Toy Story 4 with a much more expanded role, acting as the film's deuteragonist. But the biggest issue of Bo Peep's character design still stands. How do you work around her being made out of porcelain without her breaking? And the answer is, you just do. This is a film series about toys coming to life. Who cares if you stretch reality a bit when it comes to things like how durable porcelain is? Toy Story 4 takes the approach that such a delicate toy would take the necessary measures to ensure their survival. The scene where Beau is reintroduced makes sure to indicate how she survived for that long, by gathering the necessary supplies to repair herself. If her arm breaks off, she can just tape it back on, and it will still work, although this does raise the question of how badly a toy has to break before it dies. It also helps that the stakes in Toy Story 4 are much lower than they were in the previous two films. There's no scene where the toys are running around on an airport baggage carousel or being flung inside a dump furnace. They're just at an antique store. Beau does still get thrown about a bit, to be fair, but there aren't any extreme hazards here that would instantly shatter her. Bo Peep having a lot of action scenes in the film also meant she had to go for a drastic design change, as that giant puffy skirt was going to do nothing but get in the way. She does keep her skirt, which we can see her wearing when she's being played with or when the action's over, but when she has a mission, she turns the skirt inside out and uses it as a cape. It's clever that the writers found a new use for the skirt rather than having Beau get rid of it completely. Plus, Beau having it draped as a cape does make her look more like an action hero. Bo Peep's cane is also well utilised throughout the movie. She's always finding new uses for it. Bo Peep's design also went through some purely aesthetic changes, the most notable being her eyes. In 4, they are much bigger and wider. Bo Peep no longer has her eyelids permanently half closed, an important change to help her convey a wider variety of expressions. The film's opening sets up Woody and Beau as working in perfect unison in order to rescue a lost toy, instantly laying out why Woody and Bo Peep see each other as such valuable partners. Rescuing a lost toy together was the perfect way to convey this, as it also foreshadows later events of the film. Bo Peep will not only become a lost toy herself, but will also team up with Woody again to rescue other lost toys, both physically and metaphorically. Bo Peep acts as the leader of Molly's toys in the same way Woody is the leader of Andy's. We'd seen hints of Bo Peep's leadership qualities in previous films, like when she instructed Rocky to pull down the ramp in Toy Story 1, but this is the first time she's portrayed as having equal authority with Woody. Prior to this, I had always assumed the toy needed to be considered a favourite by the kid in order to command leadership. When Andy started favouring Buzz over Woody in the first film, we saw that Woody started losing respect from the other toys. Bo Peep's leadership, however, remains unquestioned, even though Molly clearly doesn't care for her anymore. It's possible her leadership is determined more by seniority. Beau is obviously one of Molly's oldest toys, so that's presumably why she takes charge. Immediately after this rescue, Bo Peep is taken away to be given to a new family. Woody intercepts the box she is in and tries to convince Bo Peep to stay, saying it's what's best for Andy, implying that Andy still plays with Bo Peep. It makes you question if Andy is upset about Bo Peep being taken away. He had obviously crafted a narrative place for her in his games. Bo Peep declines staying with Andy, however, stating that she's not his toy and it's time for the next kid. Bo Peep accepting that it's time to move on stands in contrast with Woody staying loyal to Andy long after Andy stopped playing with him. Bo Peep's difference in mindset stems from Bo Peep having heard her owner, Molly, saying that she doesn't want Bo Peep anymore. Bo Peep has had the confirmation that there is no longer a place for her in Molly's life, which is why she's willing to move on. Woody, on the other hand, never heard that from Andy. Andy deliberately held on to Woody through his teen years and even considered taking him to college. Andy never let go of his sentimental attachment to Woody, so therefore Woody never got over Andy. Bo Peep then tries to convince Woody to come with her. This does somewhat contrast her characterization in previous films, as Beau was always the one to remind Woody of how important he was to Andy. This shows that Beau was almost willing to hold her own love for Woody over Andy's love for Woody. However, when Beau overhears Andy desperately searching for Woody, she does immediately accept that Woody won't be able to leave him. Andy is presented as the one factor that stopped Woody from going with Bo Peep. This foreshadows that Woody will end up with Bo Peep at the end of the film, as the one thing that was stopping him before, Andy, is no longer around. Before leaving the subject of Molly entirely, it is noteworthy that Toy Story 4 is the first film where we find out what Bo Peep meant to Molly. In the previous films we had only seen Andy play with Bo Peep, but never Molly, partly because Molly never received much focus in the films, and partly because a baby playing with a porcelain doll does not lead to a good result. Toy Story 4 reveals that Molly was scared of the dark as a baby, so Bo Peep's lamp was brought to comfort her. I had never really thought about it before, but Bo Peep must not have been with the toys that long prior to the events of the first Toy Story film. If her lamp was bought when Molly was a young baby, and Molly is only a few months old in the first Toy Story, then Bo Peep must have arrived relatively recently. I wouldn't be surprised if she had been the new toy prior to Buzz's arrival. The brief look of longing we see on Bo Peep's face as Woody reminisces about Molly shows that even though Bo Peep has moved on from that part of her life, she still has those memories of Molly. In Lamp Life, a short that detailed what happened to Beau between being given away and reuniting with Woody, we see that Bo Peep went through a series of owners who quickly got tired of her in rapid succession. It seems that Bo Peep's time with Molly was the longest she ever spent with a single kid, and may have been the happiest part of her life prior to becoming a lost toy. Bo Peep living a fulfilling life as a lost toy makes for an interesting subversion from the toy's fear of being lost that had prevailed the entire series, from Woody almost crying about being a lost toy in the first film, to the opening of Toy Story 4, where they save a lost RC. But Bo Peep puts forward that some toys may live a happier existence as a lost toy, especially for one like Bo Peep, who all her kids quickly grow tired of. As a lost toy, Bo Peep has far more agency over her own life than most toys with owners do, as she no longer has to follow the whim of whatever her owner decides. She took control over her own life because she didn't want to sit on the shelf waiting for her life to happen. This is the inverse to Stinky Pete, the villain from Toy Story 2, who spent his lifetime on a shelf, which morphed him into a bitter and vindictive person. Even though Bo Peep has a much more extended role when compared to previous films, she still fills out that same basic story function of being there to support Woody. A reductionist view of her role in the film could boil it down to Beau tries to help Woody rescue Forky, and then becomes his happily ever after. Where Beau really differs from the previous films is that this time she's a much more active character, making significant contributions to the plot. This can be seen through the way she takes charge of the Forky mission, but also through the conversations she has with Woody. Compare the types of advice she gives him throughout the film series. In the first two films, Beau gave Woody little pep talks to reassure him that he was a valuable person, always centered on comforting Woody. But these moments were brushed over in the film so briefly that if you removed them completely, it wouldn't greatly impact the story. But in Toy Story 4, she imparts her own experiences and worldviews onto him, really getting Woody to question what his own beliefs are, shaping his views throughout the film, till it leads to his conclusion to stay with Bo Peep. The way Bo Peep asserts her own views and makes active decisions throughout Toy Story 4 means that she can't be labelled as the sexy lamp in this film, especially as she's ditched her old lamp. The actual romantic element of Woody and Beau's relationship is much more toned down than in previous films. In those, Beau flirting with and snogging Woody made it crystal clear that they were a little more than just friends. But here, the affection they express for each other is much more subtly communicated, through music cues and the light touches and longing looks they give each other. They don't even kiss in the film. The most intimate thing they do is hug. And everybody hugs in this film. Obviously part of the reason Beau and Woody aren't as intimate with each other is because they've been separated for 9 years. They're not going to get the fires burning again straight away, but even in flashback scenes they don't kiss goodbye. Bo Peep just slightly strokes Woody's face and adjusts his hat. If you viewed Toy Story 4 in a vacuum, without the context of the first two films, you could just read Woody and Beau's relationship as a close friendship, and it almost works. The only moment in the film where a character suggests a romantic relationship between them is when Giggle McDimples compares it to her relationship with He-Man. The coy way the romance between Woody and Beau is portrayed actually reminds me a little of the way same-sex relationships tend to be shown in kids' cartoons, in that there's an air of plausible deniability there. Like, yeah, you could say Beau is stroking Woody's face because they're in love, but you could also say that they're just holding hands or wiping each other's faces because they're just really good friends. I don't know. But obviously Woody and Beau's relationship does end up being much more overt to the audience, thanks to the context of the first two films, as well as the fact that they're hetero. All of Bo Peep's other key relationships in the film are used to develop her relationship with Woody. Bo Peep's sheep act as a decent plot device to measure Woody's character growth. In the film's opening, they demonstrate how one-track-minded Woody is by him never thinking to ask Bo Peep if they have names, despite them living together for around 4 years. This is then further demonstrated by how Woody's determination to rescue Forky ends up being at the cost of the sheep's well-being, with them being captured after Woody goes against Beau's advice. Then Woody wants to leave as soon as they rescue Forky, having forgotten that Beau still needs to get her sheep back. And finally, Woody's attempt to rescue Forky from the cat causes Bo Peep to drop her sheep, breaking off their foot. It is not until after Woody has learned to appreciate Bo Peep's perspective on life that he is able to remember the sheep's names and realises how important the sheep are to Bo Peep by telling them to take care of her. Woody not knowing the sheep's names also doubles for funny meta-commentary for how Toy Story 4 is the first film where they're named. Bo Peep is also paired with Giggle McDimples, a tiny Polly Pocket-esque character. They suit each other as they're both physically vulnerable toys. Bo Peep is delicate, making her easily breakable, whilst Giggles is so small that she could easily be crushed or fall down into the gutter or get eaten by a cat. It seems only natural that two toys who are at high risk of being destroyed would be so drawn to each other. Giggle McDimples also serves the purpose of being Beau's confidant, allowing the audience to hear Bo Peep's perspective on things when Woody isn't around. Through Beau's conversations with Giggles, we gain an insight into what part of her past Bo Peep is comfortable in discussing, and what she isn't. She has told Giggles about the rag doll she used to know, indicating that Woody was an important enough part of Beau's life for her to tell others about, but Beau never told her that she used to have a kid. This comes across as a bit strange, considering how Beau's time with Woody was intertwined with her having a kid. You'd think any discussion of Woody would naturally lead to the discussion that she had a kid when she knew him. Bo Peep was obviously very vague about who Woody was. She never even told Giggles that he was a sheriff. If Bo Peep still talks about Woody, but never mentions Molly, this suggests that while she no longer has a place for a kid in her life, she may still have a place for Woody. Whilst Beau's relationship with Woody is the central focus of the movie, Beau's relationship with the rest of Andy's toys is barely referenced, there only being one brief scene in the film where Woody and Beau discuss them. The first toy that Woody brings up is Jessie, with Beau being pleasantly surprised to hear that Jessie is still with Woody. At the end of the film, Jessie and Beau hug, suggesting that there was a friendship between the two, although the audience never actually gets to see this friendship, as the two have literally never had an on-screen conversation with each other before this moment. It is kind of funny that in the second film, Jessie took Beau's place as the leading lady in the Toy Story series, but with the fourth entry, Beau seems to have taken that title back. After Beau asks about Jessie, Woody has to correct himself from saying the whole gang still together to almost the whole gang, acting as a reminder of how Bo Peep isn't part of the gang anymore. Although considering she was never really Andy's toy, it is debatable if she was ever truly part of the gang. The toy that Beau asks about after this is Rex, acting as nice symmetry for how Rex was the one to bring up Bo Peep in Toy Story 3. It's after this conversation that Beau and Buzz reunite, with Beau declaring,
Buzz! My old moving buddy!
in a cute callback to the first movie, even though Buzz wasn't actually around when the move itself happened. Bo Peep happily hugs Buzz, in contrast with her more awkward reunion with Woody. This hug is the most significant Buzz and Beau interaction we get throughout the movie, and Beau's past attraction to Buzz isn't referenced again. The closest thing Woody has to a romantic rival in the movie is Duke Kaboom. Although I use the term romantic very loosely, as there's no real indication that Beau and Duke are attracted to each other. Duke instantly upstages Woody from his introduction. He cares deeply for Bo Peep's sheep, and validates Beau's ideas by agreeing with the rescue plan she came up with earlier. This sets out the lessons that Woody will learn in the movie, to appreciate Bo Peep's ideals and what she holds important to her. Toy Story 4 is the first time there's real conflict between Beau and Woody, stemming from them having contrasting outlooks on life. Bo Peep has had to fend for herself for the past 7 years, and as such she has become very careful and calculated in order to preserve herself. She needs to come up with a thought-out plan to retrieve Forky, because she knows one wrong move could result in her or her sheep breaking. Woody, on the other hand, is much more headstrong and one-track minded. He has his mission to retrieve Forky and will seize any opportunity that arises to accomplish his mission, not taking into account what the consequences of his actions may be. Bo Peep and Woody's differing outlooks extend beyond the mission and to their worldview as a whole. Bo Peep has taken a more macro view on life, questioning why she should live in a single kid's bedroom when she could have the whole world. Instead of trying to form a connection with one child, she travels from playground to birthday party, leaving whenever the kid is done playing with her. This naturally means she's unable to form any deeper connection with the child. She won't be there for all their ups and downs, as Gabby describes. Bo Peep is still being there for children to play with, which is the most important role a toy can fulfill, but the places she travels to are typically where children are at their happiest, so it is unlikely to have to comfort them through any hardships. Because of this, Bo Peep has difficulty seeing the value between the relationship of a kid and a toy on an individual basis. When Woody tries to convey to Beau the importance of retrieving Forky, she dismisses it, saying that kids lose toys all the time and that Bonnie will get over it. This stands in contrast to her sentiment that Andy will always have a special place for Woody, which she expressed in the first movie. In order to get her help, Woody has to remind Beau of her past with Molly, and ask her to do it as a personal favour to him. Later, when their rescue plan fails, Bo Peep accuses Woody of only wanting to save Forky because he needs validation from Bonnie, saying,
There's plenty of kids out there. It can't be just about the one you're still clinging to.
She obviously does have a point here, Woody admits the reason he's so invested in Forky is because it's all he has left to do. But it's not until Giggles starts bad-mouthing Woody, saying that Woody only cares about himself, does Bo Peep come to the realization that
Woody's always trying to do right by his kid.
this realization helps Bo Peep to see the value of uniting toys with children. She goes back to help Woody with his Forky mission, she gives Gabby advice on how to get the attention of a lost child, and in the film's prologue, she and Woody help kids to win carnival toys. Woody, on the other hand, takes a more micro look at life. He thinks the only thing that matters is helping the child he's with, and doesn't think of the world outside of that. From Beau, Woody learns to expand his horizons. If one kid doesn't need you, there's a world out there full of kids who might. You just have to take initiative and find out, instead of sitting on the shelf your whole life. Through Woody and Beau's journey in the film, they both learn something from each other. Beau learned the importance of doing right by a kid, whilst Woody learned when it's time to move on. There's a clear indication of how the two support each other, and why they value each other as partners. It's not just a one-sided thing where Beau is only there to give Woody little pick-me-ups. Obviously Woody does get the more pronounced character arc out of the two, he does go through the more dramatic life change and he is the main character, but the fourth entry in the Toy Story series is a film that adds some depth to Bo Peep's character that can't go unacknowledged. And that concludes my Pixar profile for Bo Peep. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I hope you stay tuned for future Pixar profiles. Before I go, I'd like to ask what you think of Bo Peep, and what character you'd like to see in the next Pixar profiles. There are still some Toy Story characters I'd like to cover, but I'm open to suggestions. Good night, everybody.